And good afternoon. Thank you for joining us. My name is Dan Trujillo. I'm the Public Information Officer for the City of Las Cruces. A couple of ground rules before we really get started here. If you have a cell phone or any other device, if you can silence it so we don't have any interruptions. We will be taking questions after Chief speaks on today's incident, but we will have a microphone. We'll go around to you. If you can speak in the microphone clearly so we can get it on our recording also. Also, another ground rule is this news conference is intended to cover the incidents from this morning. We had an officer-involved shooting. A task force is investigating it. We know that it's been a big news day. There's been a lot of other news stories out there, but because of pending litigation and other circumstances, we cannot necessarily speak on that matter today. But if you have any questions, you're more than welcome to send an email to the communications office. That email is communications@lascruces.gov, and we will forward it to the city's council, who will be able to answer those questions as soon as possible. And he has been doing that all day so far. So without anything else, if you would, please welcome Interim Chief Jeremy Story.
Thank you, Dan. Good afternoon, everyone. I appreciate you guys being here on short notice. This news conference is to address an officer-involved shooting that occurred this morning. As you can imagine, it's less than 12 hours from that incident, so the details and the facts that we know at this time are very limited. My intention is to provide what we know at this time, what we know to be fact, and only that. I don't want to make assumptions or relay conjecture that could later be determined to be false or we have to change it. So I will provide you the facts I can, but again, because we're less than 12 hours, that information is limited at this time. What we do know is that at approximately 4:45 a.m. this morning in the 1300 block of Burley Court, there was an officer who was on proactive bicycle patrol. He made contact with a vehicle. During that contact, at least one round was fired. There's a female that was the driver of the vehicle that has passed away at a hospital this morning. There was one other person in the vehicle as a passenger. While on scene, officers provided emergency medical attention as well as EMS, and then she was, like I said, transported to an area hospital where she passed away. At this time, that's the information that I'm relaying. I will take questions and answer what I can, and at this time, we'll follow up with any questions you might have.
During the incident?
The officer received some minor injuries that did not require hospitalization.
Do we know maybe why the officer stopped was the officer trying to stop the vehicle, or can you describe what made contact means? Are there any details as to maybe why this officer and this woman were in contact?
It's a good question, and I can make assumptions, which I don't want to do. Until the officer's interviewed, we have to go off very limited information, and I don't want to draw that conclusion just yet. So once the officer's been interviewed, we'll have more information on that specifically.
Do we know how old the woman was?
She was 45 years old.
Can you, sorry, go ahead. Can you comment on the protocols that the police department takes after incidents like this?
Yes, so when there's an officer-involved shooting, the officer-involved incident task force is activated. That's comprised of investigators from the Las Cruces Police Department, the Doña Ana County Sheriff's Office, the New Mexico State Police, and the New Mexico State University Police Department, as well as the District Attorney's Office. They begin their investigation. The officer is placed on administrative leave, which is standard protocol, paid administrative leave. Once that investigation is completed, which takes time, and depending on the circumstances, how much time, they present that case. They present the facts to generally the District Attorney's Office, and they make the decision about the reasonableness of that use of force.
And would you be able to provide any information about once shots were fired, once that woman was shot, was there immediate action taken to provide her aid?
Just some of the first responding officers, that's the first thing they did, is they provided medical aid to her, and then once EMS arrived on scene, they continued with that care.
Do we know anything about the other person in the car? Was that person injured? Is that person in custody? Do we have any information on that person?
That person was not injured. I don't want to give a conclusion about whether they're in custody now because I don't have that information right now, but they were not injured.
So we know that there are several officer-involved shootings here in Las Cruces. You as the interim chief, do you think that there needs to be changes in the training or something that needs to be happening? Because we compare it to officer-involved in shooting in El Paso, which has larger population. Do you think anything needs to change in terms of protocol or training?
And that's a fair question. It's such a broad, complex question that I don't want to address it in this forum. I have talked on this in several other forums, and I'd be happy to address it specifically, but I do want to focus on the specific incident from today as much as we can.
Sir, was this incident captured on body camera?
Yes, it was.
Is it normal for officers to be out on bicycle patrol at that hour, or are they in teams, or can you kind of explain maybe the protocol when it comes to officers on bicycles?
It's not abnormal. So the way bicycle patrol works for Las Cruces is any officer has the ability to go through a bike certification class and then is issued a bicycle. So they could be taking calls for 8 hours a day and then decide when it's slower to get on their bicycle and to patrol. They can do that every day. They could try to coordinate a 5-hour patrol on a day that's slow and there's other people working. So there's not like a set unit that does bicycle patrol per se. So there's nothing abnormal about it, but it's really up to officer discretion for getting on their bicycle, getting out in the community when they can.
You mentioned that this was captured on body camera. I'm assuming that's a part of the investigation that won't be released, at least at this point, but will it be released at some point?
But yeah, all body cam footage is released per the public records law, so it will be released. And as we gather more information, I mean, at some point, we'll have more information to present, including body cam.
Do we know if the person who was shot was armed?
At this point, I do not know if there's any weapons in the vehicle because the search warrants are still being completed. However, there's no handgun used or rifle, and no firearm used in the initial use of force that we can see.
Where was a person shot, if you know?
I don't want to give that conclusion because obviously that's something we will know. We usually wait for the autopsy report for that final report because that's definitive.
I know earlier today you guys said that you guys won't be revealing the identity, but at this time, have you guys been able to contact the family member of the victim?
The reason I haven't released is because I do not have confirmation that Mexican has been 100% notified, and of course we don't want to release their name until that happens. Once they have been notified, we will release the name.
Do we know at least the ethnicity, Hispanic, African American?
I don't know for sure. I mean, I can make an assumption. Again, I don't want to make that assumption because sometimes you're wrong when you do that.
Anybody else have questions? Thank you very much, Chief.
One more, I'm so sorry. Just for the scene, do we have a timeline when it's going to be cleared up at this point?
I don't have specific. They were getting close even when I was coming over here, so I'm hoping that it's cleared up relatively quickly, relatively soon. Thank you all. I appreciate
we're
your
good.
time.
And again, if you have any other questions, please feel free to send an email to the communications office. It's communications@lascruces.gov. Any questions on any police, fire, or city incidents at all, you can send an email with that address. Thank you.